welcome to another Beyond Sport podcast. I'm Mark Ellams, and once again, I'm delighted to be joined by fellow hosts Craig Collins and Nate Foley. And today's guest student hosts is Kay McMahon and Curtis Wolseley. And today we are delighted to be joined by a Super League legend, a man who has broken many records within Super League, both while at Hull and at Leeds Rhinos. Man who has played for his country and won numerous honours, and that is Tom Briscoe. Tom, welcome.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So you're, as we say, you're what I like class as a Super League legend, and you have you grew up in Featherstone, which was in West Yorkshire, a hotbed of rugby league. Did you always grow up just playing rugby league, or was there other sports you were interested in?
No, rugby league was the main one. My dad used to play. I used to go watch him and ball boy for him every week. So, like I say, that was the main one. But no, I tried pretty much every sport. Played football as well. Tried a bit of cricket. It was probably between football and rugby. But there came a point where I had to choose. And one were played on a Saturday and one were played on a Sunday. And then one year they both went to the same day, so obviously I couldn't play both, and like I say, I had to choose, and thankfully I chose the correct one, and it's panned out all right for me.
Definitely, I say you made the right decision.
Tom, talk us through how you kind of got into the professional rugby league kind of system. Was it through an academy, or were you kind of picked up from Featherstone? How did that work out?
So I originally started with a scholarship at Featherstone Rovers, obviously the local team to me, and that was from, I think, probably 14, 15, 16, and then at 16 went up to college, tried out at Bradford Bulls, but they didn't want to offer me an academy contract, and then I just got an offer kind of out of the blue from Hull FC, and that was an academy contract and what I wanted, so I went for that, and things turned out all right there. I played for the under-18s for a year, and then moved straight up to at that point it was the under-21s academy, and I was playing there at 17, so it was quite a quick progression for myself to be doing that. And then that off season, at the end of my year with the 21s, funnily enough, it's the current coach who we've got now at Leeds, Rich Agar, who asked me to come training a few sessions a week with the first team. And at that point, I was still in college doing my A-levels. So that was a challenge, getting to training early in the morning and then coming back to join in with everyone else doing classes. And then that season, for the opening game against Warrington, made my debut coming off the bench. And a funny story about that is they actually picked me up outside the college. I'd literally come from college, got picked up on the coach, and yeah, went straight through to Warrington. And then when I finished college and passed my A-levels, it was just a straight move into the full-time professional rugby league.
Excellent. And kind of we talked about this with other guests, like that kind of period where you're studying and trying to play at the same time. You've got a lot on your plate. How did you kind of manage that between the two, making sure you got your assignments in, but also putting the full effort into the rugby? Yeah,
it's tough. I think at that point in my life, it was more about rugby. Obviously, I wasn't aware of how it would have panned out, but I probably put more effort into, like I say, into the rugby, and college kind of took a back seat. Thankfully, I passed and got good grades in the A-levels and managed to sort that out before actually going full time. But yeah, it's tough. Obviously, I think I was starting at something like 6 in the morning, getting to Hull 6 or 7 in the morning to do my gym sessions. flying straight down the M62 to Pontefract, straight off the motorway, straight into college, doing a full day there, and then 2 or 3 times a week it was back over to Hull to train with the academy. So yeah, busy, but thankfully, like I say, it all panned out in the end and made a success of both.
Excellent.
Sort of looking back at how experiences, like you spoke about ball boying for your dad and stuff like that, can sort of shape your path in terms of previous experiences relating to what you do now.
Yeah, obviously the growing up and having a dad who played rugby, it kind of always just happened. He took me down to Featherstone Lions, my local team, and that all just fed into what at the time I just wanted to do. I just wanted to be a rugby player, and that went all through school. I think it's funny, I always remember a career meeting with the careers office, and she said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a rugby player." And she kind of said, "Well, that's not realistic, so let's think of something else." And at the point, I hadn't really thought of anything else. And that's where, obviously, later, many years down the line now, I'm thinking about that. But at the time, it was all rugby. And thankfully, I managed to get a full-time job.
I think, Cian, you've got a question that sort of might reflect different to what your careers officer might have said in terms of your career. Cian, you've got a question.
You studied for a BSc in sport and exercise science. What made you get that degree? How did it intrigue you to pick it?
So at that point, I did it part-time. It took 6 years to complete that and graduate. But at the time of starting, I knew I wanted to do something. There was obviously a link between the Leeds Rhinos and Leeds Beckett. So I knew that was there, and I knew I wanted to do something. And at that point, I was between being a physio or a strength and conditioning coach. And the sports science degree kind of put me in good stead for both. I could go on now to do either, just go down the master's route and go that way. So that was initially why I wanted to do that degree, and obviously the links with sport, and my A levels were in biology and sport, so it kind of just followed that progression along those lines of what I was interested in. But going through that degree, it's led me down a different path. I've kind of now enjoyed doing the research side of my dissertation for the final year, and looking into getting into lecturing and research, which is where the PhD stemmed from now.
How how have you sort of managed to juggle everything that you do in terms of playing as well as studying and having a family as well?
Yeah, it's tough. Busy all the time. But no, I've chose that, so I make time and make sure I'm getting in the right amount of time to do everything. Obviously, the rugby takes main stage, and that's got to be my most important priority. But just to take you through a typical day, I'm up around 6:30 with the kids, get them ready, give them breakfast, and then out to training all day. Get home, get tea sorted, help with bath time, bedtime, and that. And then when everyone's settled, that's when I then go into studying. Tend to spend an hour or two every night trying to just keep on top of the workload. Throughout the degree, it went in stages. So towards the end of the semesters, when assignments needed to be in and when exams were coming up, it was obviously busier with the the research and typing up for the assignments and the revision. But all in all, I think it was okay, manageable. And one thing, I think the most important thing I took away from that is the importance of time management. To make sure that I got in all the work I needed on an evening, and make sure that the work I was presenting was the best that I could do, whilst at the same time still performing well on a weekend and through the week to train. Obviously, like I say, there were times when it was tough, but that probably coincided when pre-season were happening as well. So overall it were all right, but there were some tough stages.
So, Tom, I want to kind of talk about your rugby. You've had many kind of career highlights and that, and I want you to kind of think back at some of them so far. So, Grand Final, Challenge Cup finals, Super League Dream Team, scoring amount of tries in the finals and stuff. What would you say would be the best moment at the minute, looking back so far on your career?
Like you say, you named a few there to think about with the finals and things. And to be honest, it's hard to pick out just one. Like you say, I've been lucky enough to play in a lot of finals and to win a lot of medals, and during that time score a couple of tries as well to take that tally up and get the records. But if I had to pick one, it'd be tough. I mean, the first time I played at Wembley, my first season, that was a highlight. Obviously, that was with Hull. We didn't win that one, but to just at that point in my career, obviously, I wasn't aware of where it would take me, but to get the chance of playing at Wembley, I think there were 80,000 to 90,000 people there that year, and that was a massive highlight to get that first appearance there. But I think it's hard to look past the 5 tries at Wembley. That is probably the best final I've been in.
Would you say getting capped for England and representing your countries up there as well in terms of career highlights?
Yeah, definitely. I think to represent your country at any level is a massive honour, and I'm immensely proud of that. I think at the time I probably just took it in my stride, kind of, and didn't fully appreciate what I'd actually done and achieved then. But looking back now, yeah, it's a massive achievement and something that I'm very proud to say I've done.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, does that feed into anything you have to say?
Yeah, so play for Leeds and England now, and they're both such great sides, and Leeds have all that history. How do you deal with the pressure of playing for such great sides?
It's kind of just doing what I do. Obviously, the bigger teams you play for, there's that extra bit of pressure to play well and to stay in the teams. And there's a little saying that goes around that the shirt always weighs heavier when you've got passionate fans, and that pressure is definitely there. Obviously, at the minute with no crowds, it's hard to feel that while you're playing, but to deal with that is just about trusting what you've been selected to do. At the end of the day, we train all day to do a job at the weekend, and you get picked because you're good enough. And it's just that belief in yourself and the trust that you can go out there and perform and do a job that'll hopefully get the win for the team as well.
Absolutely. And you've talked about, you've played with some legends, you've played with, the Maguire and Peacock, and two notable names that I always think about when I think of Leeds Rhinos is Kevin Sinfield and Rob Burrow. And it's been well documented, the great work that both guys have done to raise awareness of M&D. You know, what's that been like around the club, and what's it like to work, you know, still alongside Kevin Sinfield, Richard Agar, like you've mentioned?
Yeah, obviously what Rob is going through at the minute is devastating. It was really tough to be a good friend of Rob's and to hear that diagnosis at the time. But the way he's handled it and the way he's just got on, and like you say, the awareness and funds he's been able to raise for MND is just incredible. And for Kev to do 7 marathons in 7 days were just ridiculous. That's some achievement, and be tough for anyone to beat that. But Kev's been there pretty much throughout my whole career. I played for England, made my England debut at the end of my 2nd season, and he obviously played for England, but I shared a room with him throughout that tour. So I've known Kev, even though not played alongside him at Hull, for pretty much my whole career there. And then to obviously move to Leeds and play alongside him, and to be in that team that won so many things were great. And obviously, like we talked about, the highlights of my career, to play with Kev were one of them as well. Such a great player, and the legacy that he's left behind, especially in Leeds, is incredible.
Yeah, it is indeed.
Kind of that leads on to my question a bit, Tom. So Rugby League's been one of the pioneering sports to kind of raise awareness around mental health. And have you kind of seen the impact of that over the years that you've played and stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. Obviously, being brought to the front. When I first started, there was very little on the subject, but now we have welfare managers that every club needs to have, and we go through little like seminars and modules that the RFL are saying we need to do, and that's all guided around, some of them are mental health and all the off the field things like gambling and drinking and all that sort of stuff, just being aware of all that sort of topics that probably just got brushed under the carpet at one point. And then obviously we have the mental health rounds in Super League now that try to bring more awareness to that subject, but it's led by some players as well. So at Leeds, we obviously had Stevie Ward. He set up and his business and all the stuff he was doing around the Mentality brand to raise awareness to men's mental health. And I think over the last few years, he's done a great job of that, and the awareness he's raised, not just in the Rugby League community, but wider as well, is massive for not just, it's all right doing it in our little group in our team, but to take it to people who might be suffering silently is massive. And I think within the team, it's become a talked about thing. You obviously spend so much time with each other that you know when someone's seems like they're down or there's something wrong. So especially at Leeds, and I'd like to think at other clubs, but I think everyone's very approachable on the subject, and it's easy now to just go for a coffee and just to have a chat and not put them barriers up, thinking that people are judging you for not feeling right.
I think that's perfectly answered my next question, Tom. So I'm going to kind of skip over that. And Kurt, have you got a question regarding like the current situation now and COVID and stuff?
Yeah. So lockdowns had a massive impact on everyone's mental health and physical health. How did you deal with it during lockdown?
Yeah, it's I think it's affected people in ways that they probably wasn't aware of before this whole situation. But for us, we obviously stay fit for a living, and having the gyms and everything closed, that was the hardest challenge of being in lockdown. Luckily for us, we have obviously the full-time strength and conditioning staff that send out programs and got creative with that. The club was good enough to supply the players with some weights and gym equipment if you needed it. I've got a few bits in the garage, so that kind of sorted that out for me. But the hardest thing was probably the motivation to actually go out and do it. You got your program, and you had to prove that sending videos or photos to keep a track and make sure you're getting the work done. But like I say, the hardest thing was the actual motivation to just get out and actually do it, which kind of got forced upon us by having to show the proof. Otherwise, it would have been pretty tough, yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things, isn't it? You miss the interaction with the teammates. You don't mind doing the gym sessions when you're all in together. It's when you've got to do it in your garage or your back garden. It's a bit more tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like you say, the best part of being in a team is the environment and the people around you, and having that camaraderie within the gym and banter and all that sort of stuff. And when that's taken away, you kind of appreciate that, and it's probably put more of an appreciation on the relationships you have around the place, going through that first lockdown. I mean, luckily enough, we're allowed to go back in and train and be around the team at the minute. So that's great for us. And I know obviously some people are still having to isolate and stay at home. So it makes you appreciate and be grateful for the opportunities that we've got to be able to be around our friends and still work out and get that the mental side of it all sorted.
Definitely. I think that leads into your question, Craigie.
Yeah, so obviously kind of you've started your own business now alongside your studies and you're playing your rugby league. TB Sports Performance. Tell us a little bit more about that and kind of how that came about and what you're doing with it now. Yeah,
it was kind of an out of the blue idea that I had. As you've probably guessed from the studies that I'm doing, I'm always looking to the future and what's next after rugby. And I wanted to kind of give back, and that's where that came into. I saw a gap in the market really for specifically rugby league training programming. From the research that I'd done, it were mainly just PTs who might have played rugby back in the day and in school. And I just wanted to provide a bit of an insight from someone who's been there at the highest level, but as well got the qualifications to back that up. So that's how it came along. I saw that gap there and just kind of went with it. Like I say, it didn't really come from too much planning or anything like that. Just kind of took it and went with it. Wanted to give a bit of an insight as well into what it takes to train full time, and a bit of the behind the scenes look as well of what we do. And so I'm trying to put that out there as well. So that's kind of the idea behind it. I think the timing was all wrong, trying to supply gym programs and pre-season programs for a sport that had been cancelled for the year and when gyms are closing. But no, it's all there to go. And obviously now we've got some dates for when everything's going to start back opening, and hopefully the RFL and rugby, amateur rugby, will get some dates for when they're starting. So it's all there ready to go. I mean, I had a lot of interest in the programs and in the sessions that I'd wrote up before lockdown. So hopefully can take that and progress that. And like I say, when the seasons and pre-seasons get announced, I can start back up on that and start supplying that again.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting that you're not only going to develop the physical side of them, but you're also going to look at like the mental side and kind of be there as a complete kind of support network, kind of almost like a lifestyle kind of coach style, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of like that. I mean, the idea of joining or getting the package is to become part of, I guess, a community of all the other people that want to join. And like you say, that support network is massive, and for you mentally as well. And talking about the motivation earlier as well. So my idea was to get everyone who's involved together in some sort of chat or forum, group message or something like that, and just get everybody supporting each other and getting each other through the sessions or what they're struggling with or anything like that, just to be there for one another.
And like I say, you can combine the fact that you've got such, you know, wealth of knowledge in terms of playing rugby, as well as, you know, the knowledge that you've developed, you know, through Leeds Beckett, through the degree, through the PhD as well.
Yeah, like I say, that was kind of my niche of what I wanted to offer. The experience of playing professional sport, but on the back of the knowledge and qualifications that I've got to try and back that up and reinforce what I'm saying. I think going through the degree, I took a lot from that, which I didn't think would transfer, but a lot of the stuff and topics that we were covering in classes kind of showed the proof and why what we were doing in training was relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, you're a 17-year-old lad. Kind of finishes off just with your question.
What, like my age, what advice would you give me for like the future?
For me, it'd be just appreciate and make the most of every situation you encounter. We spoke about my first appearance at Wembley. Came in my first season. I think I might have played about 10 or 15 games in Super League. It might not have even been that, to be honest. But I look back at that now and don't have too many memories of it, to be honest. It kind of just passed by as a whirlwind, and the whole experience. Obviously, we lost that game, but the whole experience of the build-up and the week ahead and going down to Wembley, playing in front of all those fans, it's just a blur now looking back. So I think that's the key message that I'd say to anyone, just to appreciate what you've got at the time and make the most of everything. I mentioned the Wembley because I'm fortunate to being back there and to lifted the cup. And it gave me the awareness to make the most and to remember everything. So all the finals I've played in since, I made the most of and kind of just took everything in moment by moment.
Because you wouldn't have been much older. You're about 19 when you made your England debut, when you were in the World Cup squad?
Yeah, it was 2000. I made my debut at 17 in 2008, and then in 2009 I made my debut at my debut for England at the end of that season. So yeah, not too far off that age.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Tom, again, we've really appreciated having you, being able to, tell us about not just your wealth of knowledge as being, playing in the Super League, playing at the highest level, grand finals. We played obviously so many Super League games, but also the fact that you're currently studying sports science that some of our guys will aspire to do, both at degree level, at PhD level, sorry. So yeah, we really appreciate your time and your insight into everything that you're doing so well, and indeed your ongoing business. So thank you.
No, thank you guys for having me on, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and have a chat with you.
Thank you, and
thank you.
Take care. All the best.